Campers, it's me, Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees. From Friday the 13th, I'm here with AJ, and he's got the juiciest slice ready for you. It's dripping with blood. Jason never dies.
What makes a horror film kill memorable, terrific, even in some way profound or poignant? Let's explore. Thanks for checking this out. If anything about it trips your fancy, please like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, yes.
Without further ado,
I'm Jennifer Caulfield, and as soon as I get out of here, I'm going to Los Angeles to be an actress. I'm going to be on TV.
a group of by all rights upwardly mobile young people finds themselves waylaid in life and hospitalized for mental reasons. Each has developed ways to cope, and Jennifer submerges herself in fantasies of renown and fame. Of course, others of a more grounded temperament take delight in calling out dreamers for having their head in the clouds.
Yeah, lifestyle of the rich and psychotic.
Screw you.
Having chosen a rocky path, Jennifer is feisty and quick to defend herself, which is good, because it's easy to get tripped up when you pay attention to the detractors in the peanut gallery. She's also comfortable being a mouthpiece for others.
This is Joey. He used to be a debater in school, but now he doesn't talk much.
The group members are making introductions with a new staff member, Nancy Thompson.
Never sleep again.
Someone who has an intimate knowledge of the real reason for their troubles.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Quite a departure from well-intentioned but anchored in absolute reality Dr. Neil Gordon.
Well, beat Sims' theory, she thinks it's nothing but sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Shit, that's what keeps people alive.
An exacting fairy tale villainess Dr. Elizabeth Sims.
From now on, your doors will be locked during sleeping hours. We'll start a policy of evening sedation for everybody.
I say fairy tale villainess because she has authority over the young people but is so absolutely backward in her thinking. She actively puts their lives at risk under the guise of looking out for their best interest. But to be fair to her, her anchor in reality goes even deeper than Dr. Gordon's. As deep, in fact, as the stick up her ass.
Damn!
Since they aren't actually being helped, only corralled, even drugged, putting them in inescapable peril. One of their numbers is culled, taken by the actual force haunting these patients, and they are left with the fallout.
What does he want?
They know it isn't mental illness that curses their lives, but an evil individual. But the more they acknowledge the truth,
Just turn us against each other so we'll be weak, easy prey.
Oh, shit.
No, she's right.
the more they blame the events that led to and maintain their institutionalization on something other than themselves.
Don't quit. He gave up.
Joey says it wasn't suicide.
While being picked off one by an actual force, the more they are treated like delusional children running away from their real problems.
How much longer are you going to go on blaming your dreams for your own weakness?
Later, how much longer you gonna keep throwing smoke up our ass?
Since adults hate being questioned, some goons in uniforms drag Kincaid off to the quiet room, not solitary confinement at all. Using euphemisms to soften language for sake of allowing abusive conditions isn't at all what's going on here.
Sing this song. Ain't gonna dream no more.
It's no secret these unfortunate patients are the offspring of the vigilante mob that torched the one and only Freddy Krueger, a figure of mythic terror. It's as if a request for the perfect representation of lurking evil was sent out into the ether, an ideal nightmare apparition, so scary he could drive his victims to a point of being too terrified to sleep. And Freddy himself replied,
Your wish is my command.
with that guy creeping around in her psyche.
He shot me with a slingshot.
Jennifer has ensconced herself in the TV room in a bid to fight off and repel sleep.
Girl, what are you doing?
Watching TV.
Caught, there's no use obfuscating. She has to face the music, the dissonant chords of authority.
I can see that. Why don't you read a book? You watch too much damn TV.
Research.
That she's quick to defensiveness suggests she gets a lot of negative feedback for her aspirations, which is why success in acting requires a thick skin. and in her case she's developed a combative mouth.
Oh, right. You're gonna be a TV star.
Wait and see.
Clap back on point. She won't allow her pride to be wounded.
Yeah, well, if Sims catches you here after lights out, she's gonna shoot my ass.
I gotta stay on Max.
Facing an unshakable feeling sleep will equal certain death, Jennifer's urgency and desperation are palpable.
Jennifer.
Just tonight, please. I can't handle the nightmare.
Of all that bears down on her, it's grief that's the final straw.
Not after Philip. Not tonight.
Not entirely inflexible, Max maybe recognizes the futility of pushing someone hurting so much, and displays his empathy through his capacity to take a professional risk to give her the space she needs.
Okay. But I never saw you.
There's a duality to the orderly. He needs to maintain an air of authority to retain respect, but he has a heart, so has to walk a fine line of tough and kind, and it seems to work.
Thanks, Max.
Really one of the best of them.
With an agreement to keep her defiance on the down low, Max leaves Jennifer to her own devices, and she settles in for a long night.
Thank you, Steve.
This will certainly pay off. Forcing yourself to stay conscious never has the opposite effect, and staring at a TV screen while intent on staying awake, especially during the time of a usual sleep cycle connected to the circadian rhythm, is in no way visual melatonin.
Hun, I kind of think we should watch me bowl tonight. We're defending the champion.
Sleepiness slithers up and almost seizes her, needing a little more encouragement to maintain wakefulness, a sign of the time. Jennifer proves she's one of those rebels who knows her way around cigarette scavenging from an unobserved ashtray.
Ship, you know?
Maybe we'll come by later. Don't suppose anybody would
Smoking aloud in a young person's ward in a hospital dates this movie big time.
like some dessert before they leave. No, thanks, Mom.
Very good. Thank you.
Can't speak for today, if now vaping has taken over, but there was a time that between general approval and peer pressure, even quote-unquote good kids, if for no other reason than social acceptance, were lighting up. Jennifer is looking for the stimulating effects of nicotine.
Helen? Have you know?
But she has other ideas too. A little self-harm for sake of a surefire reviver, certain to give a jolt right up there with smelling salts.
Years?
What do I want to see no fart for?
Come on.
Can't she have a rubber band to wear around her wrist for purposes of snapping? What, would it be a choking hazard? A little red welt would be preferable to burn scars. Noticeable scarring would probably hinder a television career, because that would mean more time in the makeup chair.
April.
You want your car keys back, don't you?
A little late-night channel surfing is all well and good, but it all depends on finding something worth watching, and with the oversaturation of content, even with cable. Like, The Beastmaster is great, but how many times can you watch it before it seems to lose what made it great? So finding something wasn't always an easy prospect.
Silly thing to ask you, but how many of what did they have to kill?
The luck is with her. She finds a program offering sage advice from an old pro, applicable to her goals. I mean, Jaja was just in Frankenstein's Great Aunt Tilly, a modern masterpiece if ever there was one.
Don't say that because I love animals and I have 3 animal shelters. I bought it already read.
To be captivating, it's important to study the captivating, so this is clearly good homework. A cultural icon who married 9 times, drove a Rolls Royce, and slapped a cop so unironically her star power didn't absolve her of the charge. Jaja truly represents everything a young artiste would want to aspire to.
There's black in it, so I didn't know what it
Oh,
was.
probably from an artificial bird. Did you ever go to any kind of acting school?
Not
With the small talk out of the way, Dick Cavett gets down to the brass tacks.
in the beginning. I started on a talk show, you know.
But when a young actress says, how do you succeed in this business, you don't always say you have to study.
This is the point at which Jennifer needs to take notes.
I think you should study. Study, work. And then maybe you can make...
Reflecting a significant portion of the audience. Not me, I could listen to Zsa Zsa pontificate all day and night. Freddy voices what a lot of viewers were thinking.
Can I ask you something?
Certainly.
Who in the fuck would you think?
This seriously messed up blip gives way to static and bars. Yes, dreaded television distortion. A scratchy sign of late-night loneliness people of today are spared through 24-hour entertainment. Those were dire times for insomniacs with a yen for viewing. Perhaps revealing a schism in reality. Upon seeing the scary man plaguing her dreamscape projected on the screen, Jennifer immediately heads towards the TV. Since back then knobs were the name of the game, she starts twisting, hoping for a solid screen. But, coming up short, goes to the next logical fix. In most instances, a good whack might have solved her problems, but here proves counterintuitive, when she seems to awaken an electronic demon. TV can be one of the last bastions of companionship when feeling inescapably alone, and Freddy co-opting that odd face-to-face relationship seems a brand of slimy that befits him and demonstrates what a sinister head he has on his shoulders. The tongues of the demonically inclined always spit cruelness, and snickering Freddy lets Jennifer have it in a way so much nastier, snarkier, and outright cattier than necessary. It begs the question, did he have his own unfulfilled hopes and dreams of taking the stage and screen? Because it seems to get personal. When he throws her hopes and dreams back in her face. An instant or two later, Max, immediately deeply regretful of his lax attitude and basically sponsoring Jennifer's actions by permitting them, discovers Freddy's handiwork. Sometimes what makes an exit extraordinary is an overwhelming display of gratuitous eye candy that engages the excitement center of the brain in all the right ways by showing something unexpected, outrageous, and inarguably spectacular. Capped off by the be-all end-all bon mot, a real zinger that's at once appropriate, cruel, and hilarious, a rare trifecta that packs a real punch. If Freddy traded his soul for his abilities, this line alone earned it back, and perhaps promoted him from sprightly poltergeist to dapper demon.
Oh, Lord.
In truth, that bit of greatness wasn't scripted quite that way. The line as written didn't feel right to the master thespian Robert Englund. Don't get it twisted. The man could have succeeded in any arena of acting, but was gracious enough to favor us with, and stay committed to, one of the greatest horror villains ever captured on celluloid. So he conceived the one used. And it was so perfect. The right balance of humor, meanness, gloating, pomp, panache, and illusion, as in referencing Jennifer's aspirations to mock her, that it added the final touch to the magic incantation the film was casting on the audience. A spell that infiltrated so many minds, Freddy metastasized from popular horror film villain to pop culture icon, both referenced by, and more popular than, at the time President Ronald Reagan. That's not hyperbolic. They showed kids pictures of each, and more could identify Freddy. This transformation from filthy child killer to quipping ringmaster, providing stellar murder set pieces, seems an incredible jump, but I can say from personal experience, parents let their kids watch this flick. Maybe because it was glossy or fun or cartoonish, many deemed it acceptable. I'm not applying the word cartoonish the way I usually do, as in so removed from reality it's in some way absurd or ridiculously over the top. In this case, I mean that Freddy's persona and antics became permissible the way cartoon violence gets, or did at one time get, a pass. suddenly indemnifying his worst actions from the brush of being truly horrific, because on some level they were meant to be fun popcorn entertainment, despite that many underlying ideas were still quite creepy, deranged, and terrifying, such as Freddy's conception.
The bastard son of 100 maniacs.
It's been argued that this film was the beginning of the defanging of Freddy to fit a more public-friendly image compared to the dark, skulking figure depicted in the previous two films, culminating in the most profitable and glitzy entry in the franchise before Freddy vs. Jason, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I would counter that even if the later films he inhabited were designed to be more mainstream, free of ambiguity and overall more easily digestible, and he became chattier, evolving into the loquacious trickster given to ironic wisecracks, Freddy never lost his verve, juice, or mojo, even when Final Girls took away his verve, juice, and mojo. Whatever happened, Freddy's promulgation and universal appeal, allure, and success brought him into my life at an early age. On counsel of friends, even my folks, who weren't so predisposed to letting me watch horror films, mostly my stepdad, rented it, and we watched it together, so it was my first Freddy movie. I was 7 or 8. I recall well. It was a Betamax tape, and some years later, when VHS went out in our area, I was able to buy the exact tape when that particular video store liquidated their entire beta inventory, $5 a pop, which back then was a great price for a video cassette. Remarkable to think that today, with the prevalence of streaming, physical media no longer commands the power it once did, because there was a day video cassettes were straight up their own form of currency. But I digress. Getting back to Jennifer, when she caught herself nodding off, that was likely when she actually fell asleep, and everything thereon was part of the dream, which is what we saw, the phantasm Freddy provided. So what actually physically happened? It seems preposterous that such a scenario could be construed as self-deletion, but when considering Freddy's powers in this film, riding particularly high because he's fueled by fear, and his victims are so terrified of him it's driving them crazy, the notion that he puppeteered Jennifer, took her body for a ride while she was tricked by a distraction playing out in her mind, seems the likeliest scenario. Because you would think that short of trampoline, there would be no way a regular person could, through natural means, generate the kind of momentum and thrust necessary for a head to go through a TV screen, on their impetus alone. Sure, the human skull is strong, but it's still living matter. As anyone who in those days broke, or attempted and failed to break, a TV screen knows, those things were thick. But imbued with the power of Freddy, which in this film is straight up tantamount to magic, even though it's left up to our imagination, it's pretty clear Jennifer's body got a running start, and with a little extra heave-ho from the Dream Demon, voila! Still, other than it happened, and there would be no other reasonable explanation, it seems like an impossible act. Really, what Jennifer's death being called suicide without question speaks to is the narcoticizing effect Freddy has on the residents of Springwood. I mean, there was a creepy predatory orderly around.
Yeah? Well, if you're ever in the mood for a history lesson, I'm your teacher, understand?
And I don't know how he could have slammed her head through the TV and gotten out of there before Max's arrival, but it does seem more believable than a teenage girl doing it all on her own. Yet, still no internal or external investigation. As the series went on, or wore on, depending on who you ask, it became apparent Freddy's haunting went wider and deeper than most. So on some level he's playing everyone.
Yep, that stands up to scrutiny.
This film had a lot to say, but, despite presenting serious issues, wrapped it all up so elegantly, it's a gift to horror fans complete with ribbon and a bow or two. In a palatable way, it dealt with how Freddy exploited the self-destructive nature of teens to put them in an unwinnable crying wolf situation, only they were crying Freddy. Every time they spoke of him, looking crazier and crazier to the adults, who became the killer's unwitting accomplices.
Stop this insane witch hunt!
How supposedly safe institutions can be exploited into being the victimizers by stubbornly trying to treat the symptoms rather than the root cause. How in a world of working parents and latchkey kids, TV and pop culture became an occupying force like it never had before. And an idiot box or not, a television could be like a friend. But then, if idiocy was a friendship disqualifier, most would have a smaller circle, or discover a sad truth when they find themselves the cheese that stands alone. I smell a bit like Roquefort myself.
I think we're all missing the point here.
Anyhow, Freddy expressing himself through a television has to be a special kind of social commentary. It at once acknowledges how the medium had taken over parenting duties, becoming at once mentor, messiah, and all manner of message conveyor, and how that could be to the detriment of the viewer, especially young ones. You have to respect a film that takes a swipe against mindless entertainment, while being what a good section of the populace would call just that. Was it intentional? My heart says yes, my head says no.
I don't have time for these shenanigans.
Regardless, this film was Freddy's coming out party, when his place in the firmament of the pop culture zeitgeist was made too indelible to be stricken, and a villain from the shadows was brought into the light to be a comical mascot for the horror set, based much on the power of an improvised line, spat at a girl with stars in her eyes. Well, I've about reached the end of the rope, so I won't leave you dangling. Thanks for suffering my ravings. I probably belong in the quiet room. Please share any refutations, opinions, accusations, japes, or other ideas in the comments below. And please join me for whatever I'm up to next time. Bye now.
Bye, creepy man! Keep it creepy!
He's a weird guy.
Goodbye!
How are the burns?
Regular menthol ultralight.
They're healing up nice.
Yeah, I've been good. So, when do I get my cigarette privileges back?
Don't hold your breath.